This program is brought to you by the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, promoting political advocacy, education, and the ethical conduct of its members nationwide.
Welcome to another edition of NAIFA's Program in a Box. I'm Margie Barrie, and I'm delighted to be here today to share with you some information about an established effort that's definitely gaining momentum in the long-term care insurance industry. Now, before I start and give you the title, what I'm going to be talking about, let me just tell you who I am so you can understand where I'm coming from with this. I've been involved in the long-term care insurance industry since 1990. So I've seen the industry grow, change, and evolve to where it is today. First of all, I'm the National Marketing Coordinator for the LTCP Long-Term Care Professional designation. Then I've been writing the LTCI Insider column for the magazine Senior Market Advisor for the past 12 years. I'm also the author of 2 books on selling long-term care insurance. And in addition, I am the National Vice President for the 3 and 4 Need More Association. So that's my background, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about why you need to be involved, the 3 and 4 Need More long-term care campaign, and here's the formula: national awareness equals informed consumers equals action. Now, what am I going to be talking about for the next 50 minutes? Well, the presentation is divided into 2 parts. In part 1, I'm going to be sharing with you 10 facts about the need for this protection and the present status of the policies in the long-term care insurance industry and also the industry itself. For part 2, I'm going to be focusing on the 3 and 4 campaign. I'm going to be talking specifically about what it is, why you should be interested in it, the 2011 media events, which were incredibly exciting, and then I'm going to be explaining how you can benefit, and the next step, what is your call to action. Now, just wanted you to be aware that it is free to join the campaign. So don't think I'm going to be discussing a lot of wonderful benefits and say, well, it's only going to cost you several $100s a month or whatever. Absolutely not. Membership is free. So let's start with our 10 facts with the wonderful world of long-term care, focusing on where we are now and also why you should be interested in adding long-term care planning to your marketing and branding strategies. So here are 10 facts that you should be aware of. Fact 1. The long-term care insurance products have evolved to be more consumer-friendly and rate stable, which is certainly important. Since 1997, with the advent of TQ policies or tax qualified, there has been uniformity in contract language to protect the consumer. Also, the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, they provided model legislation for rate stabilization language, and that has been adopted by most of the states. Okay, fact 2. This is incredibly important. You have an ethical obligation as an insurance advisor to be sure that long-term care planning is discussed with your clients. You know, they are looking to you as a trusted advisor to guide them in these kinds of decisions. And it's a healthcare decision, so don't forget that this insurance is classified as a health product. We are seeing lawsuits where the client's family, usually the children, have sued financial advisors, they've sued the agents for not recommending this protection. We definitely don't want this to happen to any of you. So to protect yourself ethically and legally, mention long-term care insurance, mention long-term care planning, and then document that you have mentioned it. Okay, fact 3. The baby boomer silver tsunami, it's coming. The waves are washing on shore. Now, let's take a look at some facts here. First of all, almost 80 million Americans are baby boomers. America is an aging society, and people are living longer than ever before. The silver tsunami is washing ashore so fast that by 2030, 20% of the U.S. population is going to be age 65 or older. Also, let's take a look at some life expectancy figures because they're pretty interesting. They indicate that a woman age 65 today can expect to live to almost age 85. And a woman who is currently age 85 can expect to live past age 91. And as we all know in the long-term care insurance industry, women do live longer than men. Now, for those of you who watch the Today Show on TV in the mornings, you're probably familiar with Willard Scott and his segment where he acknowledges people who are over 100 years of age. You know, it used to be when I started watching it that it was like 99, the people were 100, 102. The other day, somebody was 106. So as more baby boomers age, as they become old seniors, like in their 90s or even in their hundreds, just think of the amount of long-term care that the majority of them are going to need. Okay, that brings me to fact 4. As more and more reliable statistics have been gathered about long-term care needs, the sobering prediction is that 20% of those currently age 65 are likely to need more than 5 years of care. Now, fact 5. There is a lot of concern about needing long-term care. Matter of fact, a major insurance company's report indicated that if one looks at the degree of concern for persons surveyed between the ages of 30 to 65, 71% said they either had a moderate or high degree of concern about using long-term care in the future. That's a significant statistic. A similar concern among those ages 55 to 65, and don't forget, that's our target age now for selling long-term care insurance, that percentage was 74%. So if you remember, this is titled the 3 and 4 campaign, 74%, we are right on target with 3 and 4. Okay, next fact, fact 6. In the same survey, when consumers were asked, I should know more about long-term care insurance than I currently do, 77% of people between the ages of 30 and 65 agreed or strongly agreed. So there's that 3 and 4 statistic again. It's just popping out all over the place. Fact 7. Another statistic that popped out, although it's not in the 3 and 4 scenario, was the number of people between the ages of 30 to 65 surveyed who knew somebody who had required long-term care. That has now reached a whopping 64%, and I can promise you it's only going to go up. Also, from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective, these people are the ones who are most likely to accept the you need to plan for long-term care approach, that message. There's another reason why long-term care planning is so important, and this one is closer to home, and that's the caregiving issue, which is fact 8. Rosalind Carter, the former First Lady, she really said it well when she said this about caregivers. There are only 4 kinds of caregivers in the world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. When I'm teaching a live class, I frequently ask how many of you have parents who are still living. And usually most of the class raise their hands. And then I ask, how many of you think that you're going to be the caregiver? And it's always surprising to me that only a few raise their hands to indicate yes. And my comment to them is, guess what? Everybody who raised their hands the first time should have raised their hands the second time, because you all will be the caregiver. If not physically, then psychologically, hands-on possibly, probably financially. Very few of us will escape. As a matter of fact, caregiving is the one thing that most Americans are going to have in common. Scary thought, but absolutely true. Look at these statistics. 43% of Americans age 85 and over have Alzheimer's. The average amount of years that a person with Alzheimer's needs care is 4 to 8 years. And we're seeing some Alzheimer's cases last up to 20 years, because many times there's nothing wrong except for the deterioration of the mind. Next fact, this is a family problem. Almost 49 million caregivers are family members. The family is the one on the line. And a typical caregiver's age, 48, and a female who is providing more than 20 hours of care per week. And as a matter of fact, one of the statistics that really makes me take pause is that today's woman is going to spend more years taking care of her aging parents and in-laws than she spent raising her own children. And I will tell you, as the mother of 2 kids, I find that really scary. Also, paid long-term care of any type, whether it's received in the home, whether it's received in assisted living, a nursing home facility, or whatever, it's expensive. Okay, I want to share a true story that recently occurred. It occurred to me. It's about my 90-year-old mother, Maxine. I live in Florida, and I had flown to Baltimore for the weekend to visit my mother, who is a widow. She's a very active widow. We had a great several days. We went out to eat, we went shopping, we went to movies. It was a real mother and daughter get-together. I then left to go to New York on business, actually for the big press conference for 3 and 4 at Times Square, and I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. And at that point, my mother was fine. As I was flying back to Florida 3 days later, my mother was being rushed to the hospital with double viral pneumonia, which is a very dangerous illness at age 90. A few days after she came home from the hospital, she was getting worse. We had aides there, and I was checking with the aides every day, and one of the aides said to me, you know, there's something going wrong here. There's something that's not right. She's getting worse. She can't walk. And this was a woman who had walked a mile every day. So I told the aide to call the doctor. The doctor sent an ambulance. She was rushed back to the hospital. And it was discovered that the muscles in her groin were paralyzed, and she couldn't even stand. So I then flew back to Baltimore, and she was in the hospital for several more days, and then we made arrangements to move her to a rehab facility, essentially a nursing home, where she could get skilled care, a lot of physical therapy. And you can imagine how traumatic this was for everybody involved. So what I want to do right now is I want to share with you a video of Dr. Marion, who was our national spokesperson for 2011 for the 3 and 4 campaign, and she interviewed both my mother and myself. And this was filmed in the nursing home, and you're going to hear more about Dr. Marion in a few minutes.
I never wanted to worry my daughter or my son, ever, ever, ever. And frankly, I never thought that I would live to be 90, which either fortunately or unfortunately I am doing. And all of a sudden, this has hit me, and it's hard. It's very difficult because, frankly, I never thought this would happen. I mean, I walked a mile a day, and all of a sudden, I can't walk at all. I mean, it's really crazy.
But what I hear is the long-term planning that went in ahead. Before all of this happened, Marge knew to get the long-term care insurance.
Thank God.
You got it. You're able to maintain a certain amount of independence. Yes, she's running around like crazy, but she's able to still have part of her life stay intact while she's helping you.
That's right.
If I hadn't done the other parts, where we had the financial power of attorney, we had the policies in place, I would be in a mental institution up the street, and my mother could visit me in her wheelchair. It's just incredibly hard. But, I mean, I love my mom, and I just want you to go home. So.
Sounds like you're on the right track, both of you.
I mean, I know my life is going to change, but I'm hoping that it will be a good part of my life, because I feel like as long as I'm going to live, I want to live.
I understand.
Bottom line here, as you can see, we were in the middle of an incredibly stressful situation. but at least we didn't have to worry about the money. As a matter of fact, when my mother came home after 6 weeks in rehab, she needed 24-hour around-the-clock care. Her bill every day, $442. Thank goodness, after a few weeks, she was able to cut back to 8 hours of care a day, which was essentially covered by her home health care insurance. So financially, for us, the numbers worked. But can you imagine how $442 a day could quickly erode a senior's life savings? Or even the $144 she was paying for 8 hours of care, although thank goodness that was basically covered by her policy. Here is fact 9, which is about opportunities for agents, opportunities for everybody out there. First of all, good news. Commissions from long-term care insurance sales are not affected by health care reform or the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Okay, so that's all good news. Second, the employer marketplace in particular still offers a lot of opportunity. Now, the real opportunity is in the smaller employer market. 500 employees or less, or even 50 employees or less. And one of the statistics we're seeing is that only 9% of the smaller employers, and by that I'm saying 500 employees or less, offer long-term care as an employee benefit. And for the larger employers, 500 employees or more, only 28% of those are offering this kind of protection. So therefore, there is a lot of opportunity for agents to go out and to take the message to employers about how important it is to protect their employees. Now, 2 other thoughts I want you to be aware of when we're talking about opportunities. I found this statistic really interesting. 83% of long-term care insurance is sold because the client asks the agent, not the agent mentioning it to the client. 83%. So my message to you is get out there and be mentioning this product to your clients and prospects. Don't wait for them to mention it to you. Now, one more opportunity. This is definitely a women's issue, and lots of times women are the decision makers in this product. So be aware of that. When you're out there talking to a couple, the reason you might be there is because the woman said to her husband, I need this product, I'm concerned about it, I want peace of mind. And I'm using the words peace of mind. Those were not my words. Those were the words that were told to me by some of my female clients. Margie, the reason you're here is because I want peace of mind. I want to buy this insurance now. So realize that women are a very important target for this kind of protection. So don't ignore the female. I remember years ago when I had a bad car accident and I demolished my car and I had to go buy a new car. So I took my 18-year-old son with me, and I remember walking out of the Buick dealer and I said to my son, I don't care if they give me a Buick. The salesman only talked to you. He never talked to me. So just be aware, work with the females. Many times they are the decision maker. They are very much aware. And also they're afraid because they know how hard it is to be a caregiver. Women have traditionally raised the children. They know how difficult it is to take care of somebody who is well. If you have a sick husband, if you have a cranky husband, if you have a husband who weighs maybe double what you do, we women know that we need this kind of help. So just be aware, incredible opportunity of working with the female market. And in addition, the employer market. So there's a lot of opportunity in long-term care. And if you help bring the message about long-term care planning and the 3 and 4 campaign, the messages that we're sharing with you, it's a real easy way to deliver this important message about the need for this protection. Okay, so this brings us to fact 10. Why now is the right time for the campaign, and why consumers must be aware that they cannot rely on the public programs and the government. Now, the governments, both state and federal, are very worried about budget deficits. They've been greatly impacted by the skyrocketing costs of Medicare and Medicaid. Plus, our economy has been pounded by credit problems, unemployment, an unstable stock market, and more. Somebody is going to have to pay for the cost of long-term care. Look, certainly one option is paying privately. So that could be done by self-insuring, where the consumer takes on 100% of the risk, or they could share the risk with the insurance company, or the family can provide the hands-on care, or they can pay for a caregiver privately. If paying for the cost of care can't come through one of those four options, then the funding has to come from public dollars. So that means Medicare, which doesn't pay for custodial long-term care, which is where the bulk of long-term care occurs, or Medicaid. But the problem is the public coffers are quickly running dry. So the government at both the state and federal levels is encouraging Americans to do long-term care planning. This situation has now resulted in an increased willingness at both the federal and state levels to, first of all, admit that the current programs, and I'm talking about Medicare and Medicaid, are unsustainable. Let's take a closer look at Medicaid for a minute. Medicaid is not a great solution today, and if it's not a great solution today, with what we're looking at with budget deficits, it's going to be a worse solution tomorrow. The original intent of Medicaid was designed for the impoverished, for people who didn't have the assets, who didn't have the funds or whatever, to pay for their own care. So with any changes that occur down the road, we really need to take a look at keeping Medicaid for people who are on welfare, for the impoverished, whatever. Also, be aware that you have to qualify for Medicaid. You have to qualify financially, which virtually everybody knows about, but you also have to qualify medically. And in some states, for example, it's required that you need to have 4 ADLs that you need help with. That's 4. That is a lot of care, of hands-on care that's needed. Also, most Americans want to have choices and control over where they age. Well, if you rely on Medicaid, it virtually forces you into the nursing home. And if people want to stay at home, which is basically private pay, or even if they want assisted living, which is basically private pay, Medicaid is not going to be the answer. In addition, the government, both the federal and state governments, they're going to be seeking reforms that can be meaningful and providing significant cost savings. Now, one of the ideas that come about was the Class Act, which is basically a government long-term care program. But as of October 2011, the Obama administration finally realized that this program was not economically viable, which obviously we in the industry knew for a long time, but the government finally realized it. There was no way to make it economically viable, and therefore they decided the program could not go forward. Now, there was a lot of controversy about the Class Act, and it will be interesting to see what happens in the future. Is the Class Act really dead? Is it going to be revived or whatever? Who knows? There still is some uncertainty there. That brings us to the 3 and 4 campaign. First of all, what is it? Well, this is a national awareness campaign supporting the education of planning for one's long-term care. We're talking about planning for your family, planning for your friends, planning for your clients, really planning for anybody that you care about and for whom you feel a responsibility. And the insurance, the long-term care insurance, should be considered as one of the planning tools that can be used. Now, the campaign is similar in concept to the Got Milk campaign. Hopefully, all of you have seen the magazine ads showing celebrities with milk mustaches and the words Got Milk underneath. Well, in 1993, the Dairy Association introduced this campaign, and their goal was to reverse a 30-year decline in milk consumption. The campaign has been an incredible success. So the 3 and 4 campaign is really the long-term care insurance industry's version of the Got Milk campaign. Our mission is to educate Americans about the need to form a long-term care plan and to take a look at the products and options that could be a part of that plan. The key message that we're using is health insurance isn't enough because 3 and 4 need more. And really, who better to raise that awareness and to communicate that message to consumers than agents, producers, financial advisors, planners, really anybody who was in the room listening to this. Now, for the last decade, the insurance industry, the long-term care insurance industry, has been actively searching for a really good way to raise public awareness about the need for long-term care planning. And there were a number of ideas that have been discussed over the years. But there was a definite need to take an awareness campaign to the next level. And there was a definite interest among the key players in the industry to find the right vehicle to accomplish that. Hence the birth of the 3 and 4 Need More campaign. It's an interesting story of how this campaign got started. In 2010, there were 3 people who were very active, very visible in the industry, and we started talking, and we realized, and I was one of them, okay, that's why I'm saying we, and we realized that we had a solution for providing a coordinated campaign that the industry was seeking. The creative concept of 3 and 4 Need More could be used to bring together all sectors of the long-term care world. Now, the 3 people were Jonas Roser from LTC Financial Partners, Mark Goldberg from Axia Long-Term Care, and me. Jonas was successfully using the 3 and 4 concept for his agency, and he agreed to donate the concept and all the creative materials and the website for a national campaign. Mark and I became convinced that the campaign could be effective for others, so we accepted Jonas's offer, and the 3 of us started working together to create a national nonprofit association to spearhead this effort. Thus, the awareness and media campaign for the long-term care insurance industry was launched. These are the campaign objectives. First, spread the word among the public that 3 and 4 need more than health insurance. Second, support congressional efforts on the federal level and also state legislative efforts to provide additional incentives like tax deductions or rebates to help people better afford long-term care products. Third, bring the industry together to work together so we're all rowing together in the same way, to educate the public by joining the 3 and 4 Need More campaign and using the logo, the visuals, and the other materials that we're providing to help spread the word. And last, educate the public on the private programs and also federal entitlement options such as Medicare and Medicaid. Now, the campaign is based on several statistics. Here's what happened. In the summer of 2010, a major insurance company released a new report that was actually an updated cost study of long-term care in this country. This biennial report included something new this time, and it was the results of 1,000 online surveys among consumers between the ages of 30 and 65. The purpose of the survey was to better understand the current level of awareness and attitudes towards long-term care services and also towards the insurance. From this report emerged 2 very interesting statistics. First one, 74% of consumers aged 55 to 65, again that's our target audience, said they are concerned about needing long-term care. Okay, that's 3 and 4. Also, 77% of Americans aged 30 to 65 think that they should know more about long-term care insurance than they currently do. Again, we're hitting that 3 and 4 statistic. And then 2 more statistics were published in another insurance company study. And this one was released in November of 2011. And 2 of the statistics also reinforced the 3 and 4 message. And the statistics were, first, 75% of Americans have never had a conversation about long-term care with their loved ones. And second, 70% would not know what to do if a family member were to require long-term care assistance. I find that a very alarming statistic, considering that 6 out of 10 people are going to need long-term care sometime during their lifetime. Okay, so that's the facts, that's the statistics. Let's bring this to a personal basis of why you all should be considering or using the 3 and 4 concept as part of your business plan. First of all, the campaign supports the need for greater awareness about long-term care planning. Second, it supports long-term care insurance products as important planning tools to be considered. Next, the 3 and 4 campaign has created 3 and 4 related materials to assist you in creating awareness on a local level. And the fourth important point is that the campaign gives you the opportunity to diversify your book of business and also to differentiate you from the competition. All right, so let's take a look at the moving parts of the campaign of the association. First of all, it is structured as a nonprofit association, a 501c6, and it's governed by an advisory board that has a very impressive list of members. We have over 20 members. They represent a number of companies. They were chosen for their personal expertise in the industry, and we were also looking for professional diversity. It's also run by a 3-person executive committee, which consists of Jonas, Mark, and myself. For information about the members, who's on the advisory board, just go to the website, www.3and4needmore, and just click on advisory board. By the way, everybody involved in the campaign is volunteering their time. This is really a labor of love. As you can imagine, the 3 and 4 campaign is receiving a lot of support from the industry. One reason is that it really represents, finally, a cross-section of those involved in educating about and offering long-term care insurance. The carriers are definitely behind it. They provided the seed money to fund the Times Square launch, the summer tour, and other activities, which I'm going to be describing shortly. A number of the top long-term care insurance agencies are behind it. 12 agencies are on the advisory board, so this is really a bipartisan effort. It's competitors who have come together to work together. Also, important major national associations are now our strategic partners, such as NAIFA and NAHU, and we're delighted to have them as part of this effort. Our strategic partners also include 3 major industry publications: Senior Market Advisor, National Underwriter, and Broker World. And now, in order to make the effort effective and sustainable, the campaign is focusing on encouraging producers and more agencies to join. 2011 was an incredible year for the association and the campaign. We launched several very successful media campaigns. We kicked it off in March and April with press conferences at both long-term care industry conferences. Then the campaign presented 3 major public relations initiatives. The first one was that the 3 and 4 campaign held a press conference on the morning of Tuesday, May 24th, in the heart of New York City at Times Square with a flash mob. Now, for those of you who don't know what a flash mob is, and I didn't until I got involved in this, let me explain. It's a group of people who all of a sudden start doing something together in a public place, usually dancing. Now, our flash mob was held on that date because Prudential Insurance Company had generously donated its billboard at the very top of Times Square for a week. The flash mob event has been nicknamed the Dancing Grandmas, and yes, I was there as one of the Dancing Grandmas. And so let's take a look at what happened.
educator for the last 40 years dealing with elder care issues, and I know the devastation, not just financially, but emotionally, when people do not have sufficient health care coverage. I want you to go to 3and4needmore.com, and you will find information that will help you and your family members to be able to deal with aging.
The Times Square event also was the official start of a national coast-to-coast bus tour, which featured the 2011 National Campaign spokesperson, Dr. Marion. Now, I had never heard of Dr. Marion before this, so I will tell you who she is. She is a nationally recognized geriatric expert and care manager. To give you an idea of her credentials, she has public service announcements on more than 300 radio stations across the country. She's been quoted by AARP, Associated Press, New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and many more. She's a published author, and she's the focus of a 2012 reality TV show pilot. Now, most of us are probably familiar with the TV reality show With a Nanny, where the nanny intervenes and saves a family with child-rearing problems. Well, Dr. Marion's show is going to focus on saving families with caregiving problems. So for 9 weeks, Dr. Marion and her camera crew traveled in her converted Greyhound bus, nicknamed Melly, and her goal was to raise awareness of the need for long-term care planning by using the 3 and 4 Need More slogan. Let's take a brief look at the National Bus Tour.
Hi, we're in New York City, my hometown. We're starting off the 3 and 4 campaign and the one reverse mortgage contest of $50,000 in New York City with this wonderful bus that we call Nellie. And we're going to be on the bus for 9 weeks, going across the country from New York all the way up and down the East Coast, then over to the West Coast. As many stops as we possibly can, talk to as many people as we can, waking up America to the point that they have to start doing something now about their long-term care health needs.
Need more, 3 and 4, need more, 3 and 4, need more, 3 and 4, need more.
By the way, videos of the flash mob and the weekly bus tour highlights can be viewed on the 3 and 4 website. The Times Square press conference and the bus tour have been an incredible success. Here's a sampling of the campaign statistics and accomplishments. We got 31 online media placements. We got 13 TV and radio media placements. We got 11 print placements, 9 tour video segments, total impressions, 122 million. And this doesn't factor in the pass-through impressions, which could multiply the number by 2 or 3 or even more. So when we calculated the media value, we figured out it was going to be approximately $2.8 million that we received. The third campaign event after the Times Square and the national tour was the caregiver contest. We held a contest for caregivers to submit their care story through the 3 and 4 website. The winner was announced at the end of the year, and the lucky person, actually it's a couple, will be featured on Dr. Marion's new TV pilot, Dr. Marion to the Rescue. And they received an in-home makeover for an elderly person, like using grab bars, ramps, whatever, and a take care of the caregiver makeover, which was a cruise, a 7-day cruise. So the complete winner's package totaled approximately $50,000 in value. the contest was initially announced at the launch of the tour through the Fox network, and it received further exposure from both the national and local media throughout the tour. All of this, the 3 media events, were vitally important to establish the 3 and 4 Need More campaign and have it to be sustainable going forward. So the initial work has been accomplished. This campaign has arrived. The seed has been planted, and it's going to be growing pretty quickly for 2012. Okay, so that was exciting, but how can you benefit from being part of the 3 and 4 campaign? As I said earlier, it's free to join. Many of the materials and benefits are free. For some, there is a minimal fee, and details are on the website. But here's an example of what you can get. For example, you can obtain educational materials that can be co-branded or even private labeled, and it's a great booklet that we're making available. You can also receive training on how to use the 3 and 4 brand for marketing, and that will be announced on the website. You can gain access to lead campaigns using the 3 and 4 concept. You can be listed as an LTC resource on the website, either as an agent or an agency, and there's much more. Now, in conjunction with the 3 and 4 Association, Genworth recently surveyed consumers to better understand the marketplace. Where are we now? So to briefly summarize the results, they found that the consumers remain in denial about planning for long-term care. Well, that's certainly not a surprise to those of us in the trenches every day. And we all are familiar with the impact of sales as a result of the economic turndown. So, and this is important, our goal now is to shift consumers' focus from the present to the future and to have them aware of what they may require as they age. Now, to help you use the survey to generate publicity and to better position you as the local LTC expert, Genworth and the 3 and 4 Association have developed for the industry a free electronic producer's toolkit. It includes the following: a customizable press release for producer use locally, a phone script that is perfect for calling your clients and prospects, some client letters, long-term care resources list, a listing of 12 ways to specifically incorporate 3 and 4 into your practice, a 3 and 4 YouTube link, and a cost of care map. Now, why should you be mentioning this protection to your clients and prospects, and also to your families and to your friends? Well, this brings me to what I'm calling a VIF, or very important fact. If your clients, if your prospects have assets to protect, if they are concerned about having choices and control over where they age, if they want to be able to stay home as long as possible, and if they want their families to supervise the care rather than be forced to provide it hands-on, then they will be doing long-term care planning. And I want to add one more reason. If they don't do it with you, then they could do it with your competition. So you should be mentioning it to them. Okay, so why should you support this campaign? Why is it so vitally important to make Americans, especially baby boomers, aware of the need for long-term care planning? You know what? They have to understand that the question is not will the long-term care event occur, but when will it happen to either them, their parents, or others for whom they feel responsibility. And I think it's really scary that even their children, our children, are not immune. As a matter of fact, 40% of Americans receiving long-term care are working age adults, and that's defined from the ages of 18 to 64. Perfect example, look at Christopher Reeves. You know what? If Superman can need long-term care, and a lot of it for a lot of years, then yes, it could definitely happen to us. It could happen to our children. It could happen to our friends. It could happen to our clients. We want people to understand that they need to look into long-term care planning. We all know that insurance is not right for everybody, but Americans need to understand the risk, and they need to make a decision in advance of a crisis. So, and I call this the 3 ifs. If you want to do what's best for your client, If you realize the huge potential market for long-term care planning and you want to expand the products that you offer. And third, if you want to communicate a message that we know works, a proven message that health insurance isn't enough, 3 and 4 need more, then visit the 3 and 4 Need More website and join this education and public awareness campaign. As I said before, membership is free, and as part of the initial membership package for producers, there's a long list of items you receive, including the Electronic Producers Toolkit. Then there are several other levels of membership for agents, and there's a minimal fee for that. Plus, the 3 and 4 Association has membership packages for agencies and vendors. Really, anybody who is involved in the long-term care industry. And just be aware that all dollars raised go to fund the association's educational and outreach efforts. So here's how you join. Here's the next step. Visit the website, www.3and4needmore. Just provide your name and email address. It's that simple. Also, to request additional information, feel free to email us at contact@3and4needmore.com. Please visit the website. Learn how the campaign can support your business, how it can drive national awareness about the need for long-term care planning. Bottom line here, what I want you to walk away with is this campaign is definitely a win-win for anybody who's involved. I invite you to join us, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for participating in this program. For more information regarding products, programs, services, and other NAIFA member benefits, visit www.naifa.org.